It's time to answer your questions here on today's Broncos Mailbag. I'm your host as always, Sam Brown. Got a lot of great questions in the comments section from a few of our old videos. So now I'm going to jump right in, break them all down. Got some draft talk, some free agency, and of course I got a couple Deshaun Watson questions, so we'll jump right into that as well. We're going to start with a couple draft questions here to kick off our mailbag. First one here from Ray Long. It says cornerback, linebacker, or quarterback at number 9, I'm pretty sold on Surtain. And that actually comes in conjunction with another question from Jesse Williams, who also said, should the Broncos draft a cornerback in the first round or trade down for more picks? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll ask you right off the bat. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. What should the Broncos do at number 9? I want you to type S for stay put or T for trade down. I'll kind of break down both scenarios for you guys, but I'm curious to know what you guys think, because I think some people want to draft a high-end prospect while others want to accumulate more draft assets. Now, I think there are 3 players that I would draft at number 9. If they are there, you take them off the board. The first one, of course, is Patrick Surtain Jr., or the second, the quarterback from Alabama. The best cornerback prospect in this draft, I believe. And I think he's going to be a surefire starter in the NFL. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. His stats kind of went down this year, but that's because they weren't really throwing to him. He was like the Revis Island of college football this season. Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State, a guy I love. Would love him as a long-term middle linebacker, but he's also very athletic, can play outside early and use that athleticism to his advantage, can rush the passer, he's a good tackler, makes plays in space. That's a guy I would love to have on that Broncos defense. And then Caleb Farley, a guy that some people have heard of, some people may not have. That's because he opted out of the 2020 season. But our draft guru, Tom Downey, is sold on Caleb Farley. He's got all the measurables you want in a cornerback. It's just a matter of seeing whether he can perform well in the NFL. At the same time, if you want to trade down, there are some intriguing mid-first round prospects for you to watch. Christian Darrisaw and Rashawn Slater, 2 offensive linemen that I think would play well in a Denver Broncos uniform. Darrisaw, I think, could be more of a right tackle. I'm not sold on Juwan James as the answer there, and I think he could slot in. Rashawn Slater, you could actually put him at guard as well. He's only about 6'3", not the biggest guy in the world, but he's versatile and he's quick, and so you could fit him inside as well, provide some depth on that offensive line. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, there's a name for you right there, linebacker from Notre Dame. Not the best fit with the Broncos. He projects better as a 4-3 middle linebacker, but again, can play. He's got athleticism. He's athletic as hell. Can make plays as well. Give pressure inside on an inside blitz as a middle linebacker. So that wouldn't be a bad option. And then J.C. Horn, a guy who's very athletic, would be a good fit in the Broncos secondary that uses some man concepts, some zone concepts. He's a little more fit for the zone, but could make some plays in man-to-man as well. So those are just a couple guys I'd say to watch. But as far as I'm concerned, I think if one of those 3 guys, Surtain, Parsons, or Farley, is available at 9, you go ahead and take him. Next question here from Flaming Viper V12. Which free agents should George Paton go for, and which free agents should he re-sign? Now I'm going to go ahead and do a full breakdown at some point here as free agency approaches, so stay tuned for that. But I'll talk about a couple real quick. I think you have to start with the safeties, and the reality of it is you can't keep both of them. It's impossible. You're not going to commit $30 million to both Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson combined. So you got to keep one. And in my opinion, you got to keep Justin Simmons. You got to do what it takes to pay him. And it's unfortunate because they formed one of the best safety duos in the NFL last season, both over 90 tackles, a couple interceptions each, and made some plays in the backfield as well. You have to talk about Von Miller, obviously, and the outcome of the investigation ongoing right now will have a huge impact on his future with the Denver Broncos. We'll play the scenario out assuming that nothing comes out of the investigation and he winds up staying with the Broncos. I think you have to restructure that contract over the next couple years because, it's $18 million. It's a lot of money for a guy that turned 31 and hasn't played at all in 2020. Tim Patrick's an interesting case because, like I've said before, he could want more money elsewhere, but at the same time, had a career year with the Broncos, over 740 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think he'd be a good wide receiver 3 to have behind Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Maybe him, Deshaun Hamilton, kind of depends. KJ Hamler, depends on how you view that receiver room. And then you've got Shelby Harris, who I think was one of the breakout players for the Broncos last season. People didn't really realize how good he was. It's just getting his hands on balls and batting passes at the line of scrimmage. I think that's a guy that the Denver Broncos should look to re-sign, hopefully at a cheaper deal so that you can spend money elsewhere. But Shelby Harris is a guy that I think played really, really well for the Broncos last season. Now, I'm going to ask you a question here. If you had to pick one, hopefully they can re-sign both of these guys, but if you had to pick one, Tim Patrick, I want you to type TP in the comments, or Shelby Harris, type SH. Like I said, hopefully the Broncos bring back both these guys at a good price. If I had to pick one, though, I think it's underappreciated the impact that Shelby Harris has on that defensive line. I think there's plenty of options in the draft if you want to pick up a mid-round wide receiver prospect. I think you re-sign Shelby Harris, but let me know what you think in the comments section. And like I said, we're going to be doing a breakdown of the Broncos free agents here in the near future. So I want you to hit the big red button and subscribe. We already crossed 500 subscribers since Friday. That's awesome. I want to keep it going, maybe get to 1,000 by the end of the week. But we need your help to do it. Subscribe. We're going to be covering some Broncos offseason news and rumors, some free agency, some draft. You're not going to want to miss it. All right, next question coming in from Mom The. Broncos, they should trade Lindsay and draft Trey Sermon in the 3rd or 4th round. It's an interesting question as well, and Philip Lindsay, I'm sure, is going to be a topic of conversation here in the offseason. Here's my take on Philip Lindsay. I kind of mentioned this on an old video. I think you give him a 2nd-round tender. I love Philip Lindsay's story, an undrafted guy, a Colorado guy, sticking in the area and really producing with the Denver Broncos. So a 2nd-round tender these days is worth $3.259 million. And what that means is another team, because he is a restricted free agent, could potentially give Philip Lindsay a better offer. Now, in that case, the Broncos would either have to match the offer from the other team or let Lindsay walk. But if they let him go, they would get a 2nd-round pick in return from his next team. So I think that's huge and very key to the decision to keep Lindsay or let him walk. And at the same time, and I want to make sure I emphasize this, don't overpay to keep him. If a team walks by and throws $10 million at him per year, let him go. As much as we love Philip Lindsay, and because he's a local guy, I think that there are plenty of prospects in the mid to later rounds that could match some of that production. Maybe not, all the way, but certainly could fill that hole somewhat in the backfield, a bigger role for Melvin Gordon moving forward. Kenneth Gainwell, a guy who can do it all, play in the backfield or in the slot, had 2,000 total yards and 16 touchdowns in his only full season at Memphis. Trey Sermon, I love Trey Sermon. I know you talked about it, Mom. I'm an Oklahoma grad, so became a huge fan of Trey Sermon. A lot of OU fans know how he was underused in that system, but broke out late with Ohio State. And as long as he recovers from that shoulder injury, I think he'll perform well. Michael Carter is an interesting name to keep an eye on. Had 1,500 total yards and 11 touchdowns at UNC. Was sort of the Robin to Javonte Williams as Batman, but very productive. Has the same mold as Philip Lindsay at 5'8", 199 pounds, and I think he could fill that role well. And then Chuba Hubbard, a guy that, obviously saw his draft stock drop this year, but he's only one season removed from running for 2,000 yards, dealt with some injuries this past season. I think he'll perform well, and I think could fit that role well and would outperform Royce Freeman, in my opinion. But if you can keep Philip Lindsay at the $3.259 million, that's what you do. But there are some prospects that you could look forward to picking in day 2 or day 3. Next one here from Tino Gaming. # Broncos. Should Denver cut Casey and Bouye and start Draymond Jones? Simple answer, yes, yes, and yes. If you cut Jurrell Casey and AJ Bouye, you don't have any cap hit. So technically, you're saving about $25 million if you move on from those two players. And when it comes to Draymond Jones, I was really impressed with what I saw from him in some more action this season. 6.5 sacks, average a sack every 2 games, got in the backfield. I think if you give him an expanded role, you could see the Ohio State product start to really shine in that DE position. All right, the Deshaun Watson questions. We knew they were coming, so let's jump right in. Shanav says, # Broncos, 1st rounder this year, 2nd this year, 1st next year, and a 4th from next year for Deshaun Watson and a 3rd rounder from 2021. And then Vandy also had his trade offer, said, would you like to do 3 firsts, a 2nd, and lock for Watson? Do you think that's a realistic trade? If not, what is one for the Broncos? Now I'll go into my trade here in a little bit. This is why you should be subscribed, because it turns out I did a Deshaun Watson video just the other day. Kind of broke down what my trade for him would look like. and what the odds are that the Broncos could actually go out and make a move. So be sure to subscribe. You can hit the big red button right below this video, or you see that link right at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/BroncosTV. That is the place to go. Now, as far as the Deshaun Watson trade goes, here's the one I threw out during our video the other day. I think any Watson package includes Drew Lock in it. You include the 2021 9th overall pick and their second round pick, the 2022 first and a 2022 third. Now, depending on the other offers that the Texans are going to get, you might need to turn that 2022 third into another first-round pick. But I think that's a fairly fair offer for a player of Watson's caliber. You know what you're getting in him. He's a superstar quarterback. So if you have to pay a pretty penny to get him, that might be something worth considering if George Paton wants to make a splash this offseason, his first offseason as the Broncos GM. But I'll ask you this question right now. Look into your crystal ball for me. Who will be the Broncos Week 1 starter at quarterback? Is it going to be Drew Lock? Is it going to be Deshaun Watson? Maybe you've got another quarterback they'll trade for, like a Matthew Stafford or a Carson Wentz, or a quarterback that they'll draft, like a Trey Lance. Let me know down below in the comments section. Take a screenshot of your comment, because who knows, maybe Week 1 in 2021, it might just be the guy you wrote down. All right, one more question here from FH Rad. Do the Broncos have a chance in their division with Mahomes and the up-and-coming Herbert-led Chargers? And who should we draft in the first 5 rounds? Again, I'll do some more draft coverage here over the weeks and months to come. Hit that big red button and subscribe. But as far as their chances in 2021, it's actually a pretty good chance to go through their 2021 schedule. Obviously, you've got their home and road divisional opponents, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. As I'm standing here right now, it's hard for me to say that the Broncos will win 1 of 2 against the Chiefs, so I'll say 0-2 there. I think they'll split the series against the Raiders and Chargers, puts them at about 2-4 in their division. Then you look at their other 2021 home opponents. The Ravens are going to be a good team next year. I think this is their best chance they'll have next year at winning a title, and I think they'll lose that game, puts them at 2-5. But stick with me, the Bengals and the Jets. The Broncos can win both those games pretty easily. I think the Broncos will win both those games as of now. Puts them at 4-5. And then 3 other home games, the Eagles, the Washington football team, and the Detroit Lions. Now, I do want to note the Detroit Lions, we're not sure if that's a home or road game. I'm putting it as home for now. But it's TBD with the 17-game season that could wind up being in Detroit. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, I think that the Broncos can beat both the Eagles and the Lions. Washington's a little different, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You know what? We're all about positivity here on the Broncos breakdown. So we'll say that the Broncos win those 3 games as well, and that puts them at about 7-5 already right now. And then you look at their other 2021 road opponents, the Browns, the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Giants. Browns and Steelers on the road is going to be tough. I'll go ahead and say that they drop both of those games. The Cowboys will be tough as well, especially with Dak Prescott coming back next year. But it's hard to say that they won't beat the Giants. I mean, the Giants are not the best team in the world right now. They don't have their quarterback position figured out either. So if you look from top to bottom, 2-4 in division, I say they go, we'll say 5-1 at home. If we want to be really optimistic across the rest of their opponents, puts it at about 7-6. And then you put those final 4 games right now. My early 2021 record prediction, and I'll be optimistic with this one, I'm going to say 9-8. I think this is a team with the right pieces that could potentially get to 9 wins. And obviously that's going to change this offseason and, depending on what the Broncos do in the draft. But 9-8 is a very optimistic record. And like I said, that'll change in the weeks and months to come. But I want you to give me your early 2021 record prediction for the Broncos. Get it in the comments section. Like I said, look into your crystal ball. You might just be right. Take a screenshot. We'll see what happens. I'll probably ask you this question again over the weeks and months to come. But give me your Broncos 2021 record in the comments section.